Alright guys, how's it going? It's Beer. Hope you're all good. So the guys from Healey Amplification have come down to Brighton to show us the Healey Sapphire, which is their flagship model. It's a 12 watt mini Marshall kind of style amplifier. So anyone who wants to play good rock tunes, hard rock, blues, all the way across to like metal and seriously dirty stuff can play one of these amplifiers. It's all Class A. It's an absolute beast. So we're going to find out a little bit about the guys behind the product, find out a bit about the history and who they're aiming it at, and you get to hear what it sounds like. So yeah, see you soon.
I'm James Healey. I'm from Healey Amplification. I reside in God's County, also known as Yorkshire. I am the owner and managing director of Healey Amplification.
I'm Tommy Cockram. I'm a design consultant for Healey Amplification. I'm currently living in London. I'm a defector from God's own country, but grew up in Leeds with Jamie. So here we are in sunny Brighton. We're at the Cove Studios, which is awesome. It's got a great vibe in here, and we're here to film a demonstration of the Healey Sapphire, which is our flagship model, even. Flagship model. I guess the brief for the amp was we needed something that sounded great, obviously, and something that recorded well. I was obviously being a not very good recording engineer. I was playing with amps that would sound awesome in the room. You put a mic in front of them and it just sounded like a different amp. It didn't cover loads of resonances and like fizzy top end. And the idea was to put something together that just worked, really.
Yeah, I think the target audience for all of our products, ones that are in the line and the one that we've got available at the moment, is basically anyone that wants something that's going to sound fantastic. Pretty much for any sort of genre, really. You know, you can play funk on it, you can play rock, metal, punk, jazz. It does go through quite a wide range of sounds, and I'm sure you'll hear that at some point. And it's indestructible in terms of, you know, like build quality. That was the one thing it had to do. It had to be made out of the finest components that we could lay our hands on. That sounded great, and we know we're going to last as well.
It's a rock amp. In terms of how the gain staging works on it, it means that you can get quite a lot of different sounds out of it just by changing, like, you know, controls on your guitar. It makes a ridiculous difference. Like, you can go from a really clean tone to absolutely get full on gain with just your volume control. completely different personality out of it if you change pickup. You know, it's all about the player who wants an organic connection between the guitar and the amplifier, and not have anything in the way of that, really.
Right, it's a 12 watt amplifier. It's louder than you think because it's non-master volume amp. There's nothing in the way. It pushes a lot of sound pressure for its rating. It's got a volume knob and a 3-band EQ and a giant switch to turn it on. It's got 2 speaker outputs on the back, 8 ohm, 16 ohm, and then it's got a little magic switch sort of hidden inside the cage.
So yeah, this switch, it changes the response with the power amp and how the power amp damps. Some people like it in that position. Some people like it in that position. It's a bit like a presence control full on.
Right.
And it changes the feel of the amp, more importantly. So one side it's kind of a bit tighter, and that side it's a bit looser, and it kind of sags a bit more when you kind of dig into kind of like a big bend or something like that.
What? So like one side is good for like sort of rhythm stuff, and one's more for lead. Is that what you're saying? Or?
No, it's more like different preferences for different guitarists.
Right.
Like
so it's a character feature.
It's a character feature, and it's kind of like how you like the amp to feel, and that's why we've kind of hidden it back here, because to be honest, I like it in one position and Jamie likes it in the other position.
So one's kind of got more saggy, kind of chewy end.
Yeah, it's kind of chewy and more aggressive, and the other one's kind of tighter and kind of smoother sounding.
Nice. So that works for like different genres of rock and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.
So that's a new feature. It's 2 EL84s and 2
ECC83s,
yeah,
or 12 AX7s, depending on which part of the world you're from.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a true Class A, and Jamie can mention that as well.
It is. It's parallel single-ended, for those out there who know what that means. It's a Class A amplifier, and it's truly Class A. It's not what other people call Class A.
Yeah.
It is
truly we get really snobby about this.
Tom kind of came to me with an idea for a little studio amp, and he basically wanted that small version of the classic British amp that we all know and love, and he had this idea of a really sort of high gain small amp that he could crank and record in sort of reasonable sound pressure levels that weren't going to sort of deafen people. And it kind of evolved from there, really. It went from being a master volume amp to a non-master amp, and then it grew from having more features to less. We voiced it in a studio. I think that's the one thing that sort of makes it slightly different. You know, we critically analysed it. We had a cab mic'd up in the next room, completely isolated, and we had the head kind of with us in the control room, and we're modifying the circuit based on what we're hearing through the microphone, and occasionally we'd open the door, and if it kind of sounded the same,
then we've kind of nailed it basically. And we got to the point where we were changing loads of different components, and there's a point where it just clicked, and it was like, wow, that feels great, it sounds great. And we just thought, how far can we go with this? And we started changing components, and everything we did just made it sound worse, you know. So we knew we'd nailed that circuit, and just how, you know, the optimal point at which it gives you exactly what you wanted to do. The challenge then for the rest of the 4 years was figuring out how the hell we're going to do it.
Some of the biggest issues that amplifier companies face, I think, is the quality of components that are available on the market today. My philosophy was that if, especially when it comes to reverb is for disguising a dry sounding amp. I think that's my philosophy on it. You know, if the amp doesn't sound vocal and sings and fills the room in a nice way without the help of reverb, then it doesn't sound that particularly great. So it's got to be a sing, and to do that you kind of need a simplistic tone path. The more things you put in the way, the more you take away from it. You know, and you know, I've got nothing against, you know, multiple channel amps, and you know, I think they're fantastic, but that's not what this is about. It's a different product entirely. It's about keeping the minimal path between your fingers and the speakers.
Quite clever gain staging. It's the only way that that particular circuit will work is having it as a non-master volume. So everything's getting everything's getting juice applied at the same time, but at different levels, at different stages. Yeah. As soon as you put master volume in that, the preamp and power amp interaction is just completely different. It's all about power amp saturation, this amp. So that's another reason why it cleans up so well.
Yeah.
And without that, you'd have to do all sorts of stuff to kind of get the gain, and then suddenly the sound of the amp would be completely different. So it's kind of the only way that that amp can exist in physics, essentially.
there's an element of practicality behind that as well. Ventilation is important in anything that produces heat, and the fact it's in a cage means that the valves can, you know, disperse heat, which means that it increases the life of the electrolytic capacitors which are inside the amplifier. So not only is it, I think it's quite cool looking, it's actually, it's in theory going to last longer because of that. It's not going to cook anything inside it. It can ventilate well. But I also had a bit of a sort of appreciation for those old sort of cool amplifiers that were made back in the 50s and 60s that did look like little pie warmers. You know, like the Linear Concorde, which was made sort of like 2 villages away from my house.
And also the Ampeg B15 just looks so cool. You know, it looks crazy, that thing. So, I mean, also in terms of the fact that you'll notice that the price point of the market is, considering it's a hand-wired, British-made, made by us guys, you know, amp, it's quite a lot cheaper than our competitors. And basically, if we're going to cut costs, we're not going to cut costs on the circuit or the components. The sound is the most important thing, and we realised that it's actually cheaper to make a metal-bodied chassis than it is to mill wood and cover it in leather. And we thought, if we're going to get an amp to the people we want to buy it at a price that they can afford it, then we thought, okay, let's not put it in a wooden cabinet, because that's suddenly, you know, you're having to cut costs on the internals of the amp, and that's not something we're prepared to do.
The price point for the amplifier is £895, and we are currently looking for stockists. Yes, we are looking to go through retailers. We've got one retailer in the north at the moment. Due to sort of current US legislation and the same in Switzerland, we're currently unable to ship to the US and Switzerland, but it's something we're looking to do. It will be available there at some point. But everywhere else in the world, you can buy one. And if you would like to visit our website, which should be appearing here right now.
Oh yeah, it's right there.
That's wow,
cool, man. How do you do that? That's cool.
It's www.healeyamplification.co.uk.
That guy's a genius.
Yeah.
I guess things will take us a while to initially get them to market, so you won't see anything new for a little while, but you'll see a lot of things probably turn up at once. Basically, we've got a lot of things going on.
Well, I guess I slightly interesting in that I had kind of a first version of this many years ago, when it was in the very, very early stages, and it always kind of showed a lot of hope, and was kind of a useful tool, but it was at that point a very sort of one-trick pony kind of thing, really. And hearing the progression now, having spent several hours today messing around with it and different mic placements and guitars and players and stuff, it's a horrifically versatile amp, and I'm definitely going to be ordering one for the Cove, because it's got so much versatility and you get so much saturation because of the output wattage of it. Definitely for me going to be a really useful tool, so to be honest, you can expect to see one in the studio.
I think it's awesome. I like the attenuation, I guess you call it, with the guitar volume. Coming right down low. It's really keen. I think that's useful. Like you could use that.
Right, Tom sandwich. And which one have you wanted?
Oh,
I
kelp
was
chips. Yeah, nice one.